Indiana. New era, new energy. Already making plans for next season. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Indiana?
Instant panic struck the Indiana Fever, and to be honest, they deserved every moment of it by leaking their list of protected players for the upcoming season. To top it all off, they unintentionally posted it online with no functionality, which is obviously a signature move for this team. First, you mess up with Caitlin Clark, overshadowing her brilliance with your incompetence, and now you're setting yourself up for failure for ignoring real talent.
There's not even one scenario ever out there in all the multiverses where Caitlin Clark wouldn't be on the list.
Let's face it, your selection on the list screams favoritism or worse, a focus on players who likely provided you with some financial benefits, because it's obvious that scouting for skill isn't your strong suit. The players you selected may have potential on a good day, but ignoring solid assets and rising stars is just plain neglect. If this is your approach, Indiana, it will be a long season of regret. The Indiana Fever, why in the world were you considering making November 24th, 2024, a national holiday to teach people not to operate franchises? I mean, who needs when your social media crew is out here idly sharing your protected player list for the WNBA expansion draft? Is it espionage or a leak?
The expansion draft is happening on December the 6th. It's going to be live on ESPN. But before that happens, here's what you need to know.
Just one day before the protection deadline, the Fever was able to upload a graphic showing their protected player roster, which was essentially a cheat sheet for every league competitor. Was it really that difficult to keep everything together for another 24 hours before they had to rush to push delete? Fans had already taken screenshots, and guess what? They will always be there. Indiana, you've just turned a crucial franchise event into a catastrophe fit for a movie poster.
We have a new team, the Golden State Valkyries, that are going to begin and play in 2025. But before that happens, we need to have an expansion draft because they need some players on their roster.
Let's consider this in context. It's a delicate chess game, unless you're the Indiana Fever, in which case you just flip the board and let everyone else look at your hand. The Golden State Valkyries, the WNBA's newest team, are getting ready for their expansion draft. The stakes are extremely high for every team, and each franchise gets to keep 6 players from being taken while the others are left vulnerable.
The future is so bright, and our ultimate goal is to hang another banner in the field house. And our ultimate goal is to come back in here after we win that championship and celebrate again like we did in 2012.
Oh, but the fun doesn't end there. This draft isn't just any draft. It's influencing the league's future, and the team just off their first playoff appearance in years should be riding high on a wave of goodwill, but instead they're floundering in the depths of public humiliation. This isn't a rookie error. Rather, it's the kind of blunder that is talked about for years, like when you accidentally reply to a work email, but multiplied by the embarrassment.
In women's sports, it's a big opportunity to be a part of this rising tide that we're all experiencing. Everybody in this company is all in. Everybody in this city is all.
Since the list itself is obviously as chaotic as the circumstance that gave rise to it, let's now roast it. Caitlin Clark, the team's face, is a rookie sensation who enjoys making highlight reels and packing arenas. It's clear that Aaliyah Boston is a walking double-double and the team's pillar. Kelsey Mitchell is virtually unbeatable with her scoring numbers. Lexi Hull is doing well. She's becoming better at being scrappy and adding depth.
There's not even one scenario ever out there in all the multiverses where Caitlin Clark wouldn't be on the list. Aaliyah Boston, same thing goes for her. Kelsey Mitchell's going to be a free agent, but we know the Fever really want to bring her back. They've been celebrating her accomplishments in China. They just posted an hour of her highlights online. They can core her if they have her rights and keep her under contract. So it makes sense that they keep that big 3 together.
However, the head-scratchers follow. The same athlete that spent half the season trending for her TikTok drama rather than her onk, Nalissa Smith, is undoubtedly talented, but her inconsistency may as well be her middle name. Dominance of the court, low dependability, and significant danger. It's like flipping a coin and hoping for heads when you're defending her.
On-court stuff, she's not the best decision maker with the basketball. Motor comes into question at times, not really a shooter. However, there was also the other stuff. You know, she would seem to have an issue with Christy Sides. doesn't seem to stay away from social media at times. And then the thing with Dejanay Carrington and the Sun and the Fever.
Tommy Fogg Bentley is a veteran, to be sure, but her injuries have made her more of a liability than a strength. Therefore, younger freshers are preferred over her. Even though Grace Berger is currently underutilized, her talent makes her a good backup for Clark, and her greatest days are yet ahead of her.
Tammy Fag Bentley is a winning attitude kind of player, plays hard on defense, really ran the floor well on the season, did a nice job converting Caitlin Clark's passes early in the year. Didn't do as well later in the year with that. Blew a lot of layups and bunnies, but I think part of that was because she had a hand injury.
Lastly, let's discuss who is left out. This decision reeks of short-term thinking, and the fan backlash has been as predictable as it is justified. Speaking of Grace Berger, how does someone with her potential not make the cut? Damaris Dantes left exposed. She is a versatile forward who can stretch the floor and provide depth, but apparently Indiana believes they are so stacked that they can just let her go. She is youthful, underutilized, and the ideal backup. The move of throwing Caitlin Clark into the expansion draft meat grinder raises questions about if anyone in the front office actually enjoys their work.
Just never know. You just never, ever know when it comes to the WNBA. Like, nothing will surprise me. But this is a competent franchise. They're going to keep the players that have the most value, whether it be on the court or in the...
Even worse, the entire situation exactly matches ESPN's forecasts. So now everyone is questioning if this was a leak or a sign of how uninspired their approach is. The state of Indiana, perhaps it's time to change things up if your major actions are so clear that a sports network could anticipate them. Instead, you've put yourself in a position where everyone can question you. The Fallout franchise, which at one point had some positive momentum, has become a punchline, with fans questioning your competence, analysts dissecting your priorities, and rival teams likely toasting to your self-sabotage. Decisions like protecting Smith and Bentley over Berger and Dantes look like neon signs screaming we have no idea what we're doing. Now, let's address the theories circulating around this circus. Some fans are whispering that this so-called leak was purposeful and a cunning way to gauge public reaction. If that's true, it's both wildly reckless and kind of genius in a let's burn it all down sort of way, using your fan base as a focus group for your screw-up's bold move. The expansion draft is scheduled for December 6th, and whatever happens, the Fever has already lost a crucial part of the battle for their credibility. The state of Indiana, however, given the history, if this was a real accident, which seems more plausible, it's just another cause to doubt the competency of all parties involved. Leaks like this are not just embarrassing, but disastrous when trying to restore credibility.
Maybe Stephanie White sees the talent that Alyssa has, and she clearly has talent, and thinks, I can get the most out of Alyssa. Or maybe the Fever think, hey, we're not going to lose her for nothing. Let's protect her because she does have trade value.
This is the most significant problem. Choosing Alyssa Smith and Tammy Bentley over Grace Berger and Damaris only makes sense if it pays off big. Otherwise, you're left with a roster that looks more like a patchwork quilt than a championship contender. And if Smith falters or Bentley injuries continue, this team will have what could have been written all over it. These decisions could alienate the already fragile fan base. Let's break this down. In the meantime, Golden State Valkyries could win and make Indiana appear even worse if they take up the Berger and DTIs. It appears as though the Valkyries are sitting there giggling at every move while they play chess, missing half of the pieces.
The reason this has become a thing is because the players in front of her, well, there were 6 of them. And the WNBA draft, the expansion draft coming up, you can protect 6 players from the Golden State Valkyries. Each team, each franchise can. So fans try to put 2 and 2 together, seeing the 6 players that Stephanie White was talking to and thinking those must be the 6 players.
Speaking of the Valkyries, they stand to gain greatly from this leaked list since it gives them a clear understanding of Indiana's goals and gives them the freedom to thwart the Fever's intentions whenever they see best. Capture players who are not protected. Verify. Proactive Trade offers Verify again. Since the Valkyries should send them a thank you card for making their job so much easier, Indiana just handed them a cheat sheet to their strategy wrapped in a bow. This fiasco isn't just a bad look for Indiana. It's a lesson in how not to handle high-stakes situations in the WNBA. WNBA expansion drafts don't happen often, and when they do, they reshape the league. Every decision matters, and mistakes tear through rosters and standings. But here are the Indiana Fever stumbling over themselves in a league that is becoming more competitive by the minute.
The WNBA now getting some of the vibes that the NBA has gotten in free agency and off seasons in the past, where fans can't stop speculating about every little thing.
And then there's Caitlin Clark, who represents the WNBA in addition to the Fever. Together with Aya, her first season was a spectacular, record-breaking spectacle that restored Indiana's reputation. Boston should have served as the cornerstone of a growing powerhouse, but rather than strategically erecting a structure around them, the Fever are making choices that could potentially bring their stars down. Sure, you didn't mess up the obvious, but the rest of the roster is a precarious combination of unproven injury risks and lost opportunities.
A little Fever fun, right? I mean, it's an off-season topic. It's perfect for that. A little bit of Fever fun. We can have that. And shout out to the social team if they're getting in trouble today. No big deal.
The Indiana Fever you were supposed to keep your plans under wraps and demonstrate to the league that you are a serious team, but instead you gave the Golden State Valkyries carte blanche to examine your approach and make the other teams in the league laugh at you. If this is what new energy looks like, your followers are going to have a difficult time. This wasn't just a mistake, it was a complete collapse.